My friends, good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk to you about sleep, how important it is for the male body, and not just for men, but specifically for men when it comes to hormonal balance. What happens if you don't get enough sleep? How should you fall asleep properly? What shouldn't you do before bed? What should you do before bed? And today I'll tell you the most important thing, why sleep today is different from the sleep people had 50, 100 or 200 years ago. The very first thing you need to understand is that sleep is not a switch. The biggest misconception is that when a person falls asleep, they completely shut down and only breathe with just their heart beating and body temperature being maintained. However, that's not true. It's also not true that the brain doesn't work at night or that you're simply in a state of switched off consciousness. Sometimes dreams appear there. In reality, at night, it's simply the reign of the vagus, as it's sometimes called. Vagus is the nervous. Vagus is the sleep-inducing nerve, as it's sometimes called. It's the parasympathetic nervous system. During the day, when we're awake, the sympathetic system is what makes us more active. At night, the parasympathetic system prevails. And that's what makes us feel more sluggish in the evening, want to fall asleep, want to rest, and be less active. And at night, the brain actually works very actively, processing the information you receive during the day. There's even a theory that at night the brain receives a lot of information from the internal organs, even from the gut microbiota. What's going on there? Is it digesting and adjusting the functions of your body? But what we've actually checked and know, and what science has long proven, is hormone levels, including testosterone levels. There's even a separate profession called somnology, and specialists who work with sleep are called somnologists. There's an entire profession dedicated to making sure you sleep properly and well. There are many sleep disorders. There's insomnia, there's a condition where people constantly want to sleep, and there's a condition where their sleep is too shallow. So today, from our side, from the endocrinological perspective, let's look at what happens to our sleep when we fall asleep. If we do this in perfectly ideal conditions, the following happens. The first phase of sleep begins. The first phase of sleep is what's called slow wave sleep. Slow wave sleep lasts on average, let's say, an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. The body functions slowly and smoothly, stress hormones are low, and you are in maximum relaxation. Then the rapid eye movement sleep phase begins. And I think you've noticed that sometimes you wake up in the morning without an alarm clock because someone woke you up. And look, you still have 40 minutes left to sleep. You woke up energized and strong. You're just ready to go well rested without needing coffee or anything. You go to bed, and after 30 or 40 minutes you wake up feeling completely exhausted, like after a hangover or a tough workout. It would seem that you slept more, but you feel worse. The thing is, it's very important which sleep phase you wake up in. The first time you wake up and feel alert, you're waking up during the rapid eye movement sleep phase. Feeling sluggish when you wake up indicates you're waking during the slow wave sleep phase. There are even special devices that help you determine your needed sleep phase and wake you up during the right phase, during that sleep phase. You're just more sensitive to stimuli, your stress hormone levels are higher, you're ready to wake up, and that's why it's actually so important to wake up without an alarm clock. Ideally, your body signals the best time to wake up, but reality is reality. So what's the proper way to sleep? The first important rule is to sleep on an empty stomach. It's best not to eat for 2 or 3 hours before going to bed, especially carbohydrate-rich foods. Because any increase in blood glucose will stimulate a disruption in the production of somatotropin, the growth hormone. That means the level of your growth hormone, which is released at night, is only released if you go to bed hungry. Otherwise, your level will be lower, or it might not be released at all. Of course, at 20 years old, the level is one thing. At 25, it's different, but still the numbers are relatively small. Growth hormones are secreted in our bodies for most of our lives. And that's why if you go to bed with a full stomach, don't expect to get growth hormone and the positive effects. The second is melatonin, a hormone, I would say the hormone of longevity. It's the longevity peptide. It's a very important component of private anti-aging therapy. This is extremely important if you want to reduce the risk of developing cancer. This is important for those who want to have a healthy mind. It's extremely important to have a healthy level of melatonin, but melatonin won't be produced if you sleep with the lights on. Even a small amount of light, like the spotlight shining on me right now, can penetrate through your skin and eyelids while you sleep. Your body will think it's not nighttime yet, and your melatonin levels will be low. If you go to sleep not when your rhythm is supposed to make you go to bed, but for example, you work at night and start going to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning, you will also have problems with melatonin. There will also be problems with melatonin if your sleep is interrupted. That's why it's very important for a healthy man not to get up at night to go to the bathroom and urinate. Because waking up several times during the night like this, although, as they say, they are a consequence of possible hormonal problems or issues with the prostate gland, this will make the existing problems even worse. And that's why, once again, it's so important to take a comprehensive approach to assessing your health. This is precisely why our project BioCheck, which offers health checkups with remote specialist consultations, takes a comprehensive approach to problem solving. The project link is in the video description. Let's continue. Melatonin is important. Many people downplay its significance, believing they can sleep whenever and simply take melatonin to compensate. But melatonin is just one of the hormones, one of the peptides that you can compensate for. But when you take it, your own production actually stops completely. The feedback principle takes effect. So if there's a chance not to take it, if you have the opportunity to get healthy sleep, then of course healthy sleep is number one. Secondly, as your testosterone levels drop, your stress hormone levels will rise. And nothing good will come of it except nervousness and feeling broken. Your reproductive system will also suffer, as well as the activity, viability, and quality of your semen. There are also two hormones that, depending on how well and properly you sleep, help you either gain or, on the contrary, lose weight. One is ghrelin, which promotes gaining weight and obesity. Well, if it works properly, it's also necessary, but its levels start to exceed the norm. If you don't get enough sleep, there's another hormone, leptin. Leptin, on the other hand, if you don't get enough sleep, starts to decrease. And leptin is what causes satiety, what tells your body that you don't need to store more, that you don't need to crave food so intensely anymore. That's why if your goal is to lose weight and you're trying to do it without proper, smart, healthy sleep, it's going to be very, very difficult for you. Maintaining your achieved results will be extremely challenging. In medicine, we have something, well, that's what I call it. It's called the hour of death, and many critical patients in intensive care units around the world die at a certain time. It's around 4 or 5 in the morning. This is the time when biological rhythms switch. There's a surge of cortisol. Cortisol is at its peak, and the body's functions are being reorganized. That's why seriously ill patients who are on mechanical ventilation, in a coma, or sedated often die at this time. This is the most dangerous time, so please treat sleep as correctly and wisely as possible. Sleep is the time when the body recovers, when your hormonal balance is restored, when you prepare for the next day. Many people also ask, is it possible to catch up on sleep? So for 4 or 5 work days you don't get enough sleep and then decide to give yourself maximum rest, like sleeping all day on Saturday. And unfortunately, it's impossible to fully compensate for regular lack, first of all, not of sleep itself, but of what happens during sleep. That's why regularity is so important. And unfortunately, in today's modern world, I'll definitely talk about this a bit later. Why is sleep less effective now? This happens all the time. So make sure to like, keep watching this video, and you'll find out why your sleep has become less effective. It often happens that a man says, when I relax, when I feel good, everything with my wife is great right away. We go on vacation, and on vacation our sex is passionate, orgasms are intense, there are no problems with erection or potency, everything is fine. But upon returning to Moscow within a week or two, all the problems resurface. Everyone thinks maybe it's the sunshine. Yes, of course, vitamins also have an effect, but in fact, most often the main thing is sleep. On vacation, you start sleeping more, you start resting better, and you recover primarily emotionally and hormonally, your testosterone level. Recently, I had a patient, a colleague who is a dentist, and he came to see me and said, I've been suffering for 6 months, struggling because I don't have enough masculine energy and strength. I look at the test results and the results are good, so I think that's kind of strange. I asked when he took the tests. He said he took them the day after returning from vacation. So most likely everything was fine while on vacation. I ask if he has any complaints now. He says no. I suggest we check again in 2 to 3 weeks. After returning to work for a few weeks, he became irritated and annoyed again. Follow-up tests showed a decline. That's why sleep, when we talk about healthy potency, healthy libido, and healthy children, is the cornerstone of your longevity. Without sleep, it's useless to take a bunch of supplements, pop pills, or look for miracle herbs. If you don't get enough of what's fundamental to your health, you're depriving yourself. Many of you ask, what's more important, the quality of sleep or the quantity of sleep? Is it better to sleep well for 4 hours or to sleep for 8 hours? But in some noisy environment, everything matters. Both the quantity and the quality of sleep are important. And it's impossible to make up for poor sleep with quantity. If you sleep in a noisy environment with a lot of light, you won't get anything good out of it. In my webinar, I dedicated a very large section to this. The link to this free webinar is in the description below this video. And I'll share a small piece now. I'll tell you about 2 things that really interfere with your ability to sleep well. The first is noise pollution. The noise level in all major cities, such as Moscow, exceeds the acceptable limit of 20-30 decibels, reaching 50-60 decibels. This background noise often goes unnoticed. But your body senses all of this, it feels it and gets harmed. The nervous system gets shaken up and it can even lead to cancer. The number of cardiovascular diseases and their risks increase. The frequency of heart attacks and strokes goes up. In big cities, there's background noise that often goes unnoticed, beyond just the cars in the yard. That's why when you go to the countryside, you hear the silence that you don't hear here, and you start to notice it. There are even studies showing that children who live near an airfield lag behind their peers in development. There are studies that show a direct correlation between the noise level in the place where you live and the number and prevalence of diseases in that region. Therefore, when you don't sleep in silence, like many of you who like to fall asleep with the television on or play soothing rain sounds, all of this actually destroys the quality of your sleep. The first rule is to sleep in complete silence.
Alexander, do earplugs help when sleeping in a big city? Are they necessary to get a good night's sleep?
Yes, actually, earplugs are great, but if you wake up without an alarm clock, in my case, that's impossible. I mean, with earplugs, I'll just sleep as long as I want. No alarm clock will wake me up. So yes, earplugs are a solution, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. The second important rule of sleep, which also comes from nature, is temperature. The ideal temperature for sleep is 18 to 19 degrees. So if your partner, like mine, unfortunately loves the heat and doesn't let you open the windows, that's actually not very good. Air out the room or set the air conditioner to a comfortable temperature of 18 to 19 degrees. Why is this important? In nature, the temperature can't stay the same throughout the day. In nature, it gets cooler in the evening, and that's why the body also starts to react specifically to the evening drop in temperature and prepares for sleep. If your temperature stays the same all day, it actually affects your sleep as well. If you stay at home all day with the air conditioner on and the temperature is the same from morning till evening, that's not very good. There's even a way to make your body produce more melatonin and help you fall asleep more easily. It's overheating followed by cooling down the body. That is, you take a hot bath, just a hot bath. You can add some salt to the bath to relax even more, like magnesium sulfate, also known as Epsom salt. After the hot bath, sit for 20-30 minutes, then get out and cool down. If you have insomnia, don't immediately resort to tranquilizers or sleeping pills. Try this folk remedy, simple but effective. Not only will you fall asleep easily, but you'll also relax your nervous system and get a huge boost of melatonin. And of course, make sure to ventilate the room. Ideally, there are even special supply systems, not air conditioners, but devices installed in the wall that bring fresh, clean air from outside into the room. And an important point is another type of pollution, which I also talked about in my free webinar, light pollution. The level of light we see and the lack of real nighttime also have a strong impact on the quality of your sleep. That's why it's very important not to make the situation, which is already urgent and serious enough, even worse. And make sure not to use gadgets with a bright screen before bed, or at least turn on the special mode if you're using an iPhone. For example, this will help reduce the impact on your nervous system through the optic nerve. Don't listen to loud music, even if discussing light exposure. Ideally, by the way, it's an eye mask if you don't have curtains like the ones they give out on airplanes. But there's a downside. When you sleep with a mask before bed, you don't, as they say, catch the sunrise. So you either face the problem that it's not dark enough or it's not bright enough in the morning. Of course, the ideal option is blackout curtains with a timer if someone has that opportunity. I understand not everyone has those curtains, but that's the perfect option. There are actually alarm clocks that, in addition to sound, start waking you up with light beforehand. They look a lot like a little sun. I don't remember the company that makes them, but they start to imitate sunlight for you. Lighting. So, do you sleep with the curtains closed? By the way, yes, that's a good option, and this alarm clock starts waking you up. I'll say it again. The ideal option is to wake up without an alarm clock, falling asleep in the dark, and waking up to the rays of the rising sun. But as they say, we don't live in a fairy tale, we live in reality. And it's exactly those background things, the ones you don't notice, that affect us every day and cause us to experience certain things. The number of cancer cases is increasing, the number of cardiovascular diseases is rising, and many people ask, why is this happening? Is it because of the environment? Yes, but there are things that you see, feel, and get harm from, but you never think about them. There's another question, as they say, that came from the studio. If you sleep with your spouse, or vice versa, with your husband, the quality of sleep somehow changes. Actually, it does change, because often, our partners don't really respect our rules. When we don't want to cuddle, they cuddle us. When we're hot, they make us cover up or set the room temperature the way they want, not the way we want. So, of course, the quality of sleep will be worse if you're forced to overheat, if you're made to get under the blanket, cuddle, or if someone throws their leg over you. So, of course, yes, sometimes the quality of sleep alone is actually better than with a partner. There are even couples who physically just can't sleep together. They sleep in different rooms even though they're in a great relationship. There are also athletes who, in order to gain muscle mass, wake up at night to eat. Of course, that's really out of line, because at night, besides making your body digest and switch to Python mode, you're also ruining your sleep. That's why in the next episode, I definitely want to talk about and make an episode about where the benefits and the harm begins in sports. Because sports can be your best friend or your worst enemy. So make sure to subscribe to my channel and follow the episodes. You'll be the first to know when it comes out.